back on the Secret Paradise channel. I hope this video helps you find the information you're looking for. This discussion is about tomato gardens and when to harvest them. When it's harvest time for tomatoes, I think there should be a celebration, perhaps a federal holiday should be declared. I love this fruit so much. There are a multitude of ways to prepare tomatoes, from dried to roasted, to stewed, canned, even frozen, as many as there are tomato varieties. If you're lucky enough to be able to grow your own tomatoes, the question is, when are tomatoes ready to harvest? Tomatoes are sneaky. We're used to purchasing vibrant red tomatoes from the grocers, but the fact is that color is not a good indicator of when to pick tomatoes. Waiting for a time when the fruit is uniformly red may be a little late for picking the tomatoes. Practically anywhere. The tomato is a warm weather vegetable. It is very tender to frost and light freezes. The newer dwarf cherry tomatoes are especially suited to growing in tubs and clay pots. Never plant near walnut family trees. The walnut trees excrete an acid that inhibits the growth of nearby plants. Plant basil nearby to repel flies and mosquitoes, and improve flavor and growth. Bee balm, chives, and mint will also improve health and flavor. Corn and tomatoes are attacked by the same worm, and should not be planted next to each other because of this. Kohlrabi stunts tomato growth. Keep potatoes away also, as they both can get early and late blight. Also, keep cabbage and cauliflower away from your tomato plants. Recommended varieties of tomatoes. There are two basic categories of tomato plants: the determinate, which are genetically controlled and whose terminal buds set fruit and stop the plant from growing. These red bush types are usually early bearing and do not need staking, and the indeterminate, which are the later maturing varieties that are taller and usually need some staking. Because tomatoes have become susceptible to many soil-borne diseases, the modern disease-resistant varieties should be selected whenever possible to avoid crop disappointment. As with any soil-borne plant diseases, rotation of the planting site is also important in cultivating tomatoes. Some sources suggest that indeterminate and larger semi-determinate varieties should be pruned of all suckers, tiny leaves and stems in the crotches of other stems, because they may steal nourishment from the fruits. However, it has been demonstrated that this will limit photosynthetic production, and therefore limit harvest. Leaving these suckers grow should produce more tomatoes as well as an out-of-control tomato vine. Feed with a starter solution when the first plants are set out and again after the first flowers form. Continue to supplement with a weak fish emulsion or compost tea every 2-3 weeks. If you do not enrich the soil before planting, feed the tomatoes once a month with about 1/3 cup of 5-10-5 fertilizer scattered in a 2-foot wide band around each plant. Tomato plants need at least an inch of water per week, so water them well, especially during dry spells. If the plants are well mulched, weeds should not be a problem. Try using a plastic mulch in either a red or black color. The mulch will help prevent weeds and keep soil-borne pests from splashing up on the plants, in addition to helping control moisture. A generously moist growing season followed by a severe drought period will often initiate blossom end rot, which appears first as a water-soaked mark that develops to a flat, dark leathery spot. It can be discouraged with mulching and consistent water levels. Unlike most crops, you may solarize the soil as you grow tomatoes because they're very heat tolerant. Solarizing helps control disease, particularly verticillium wilt. Wet the soil and cover with clear plastic for the entire season for best results. Hand pollinate in greenhouses. To keep indeterminate plants from making too much leafy growth, prune them to a single main stem by breaking off side shoots as soon as they appear. You will notice these side suckers growing between the crotch formed between the main stem and the leaf stem. Cut them out while they are small. The terminal shoot is pruned off when the plants reach the top of the 5-6 foot stake to stop their growth. These plants are also pruned of suckers, the side shoots that grow between the main stem and the leaf axils to moderate their vegetative growth. Most gardeners prefer to prune their tomato plants to 1 or 2 main stems. When to pick tomatoes are gassy, I mean they emit a gas. Ethylene gas is produced by fully formed mature green tomatoes. Inside the mature green tomato, 2 growth hormones change and cause the production of the gas, which in turn ages the cells of the fruit, resulting in softening and loss of the green color, turning into a red shade. The ethylene increases the carotenoids, red and yellow colors, and decreases the chlorophyll. It is because of this process, tomatoes are one of the only vegetables, I mean fruit, which can be picked before it is completely ripened. Harvest time for tomatoes should ideally occur when the fruit is a mature green and then allowed to ripen off the vine. This prevents splitting or bruising and allows for a measure of control over the ripening process. Harvesting tomatoes. 60 days for early varieties. 70 until 80 days on main season. Pick the fruit when it is red ripe, and check the plants every few days when the harvest starts coming. Store excess tomatoes in the refrigerator, but the flavor is best at room temperature. Tomato flavor starts to decline at temperatures below 55 degrees. When frost threatens, pick the remaining green tomatoes, wrap them in newspaper, and keep them in a moderately dark, warm place. They will ripen gradually well past the harvest season. Given warm weather and abundant rainfall, tomatoes ripen in 60–85 days from the time seedlings are set out. When the fruits begin to turn red, check the plants every day and pick those that are fully red and firm, but not hard. Overripe tomatoes will fall off the plant and rot quickly. To store an abundance of tomatoes at the end of the year, you can roast them, and store in a little olive oil in the refrigerator. A very light frost will usually kill a few leaves, but the plant itself will continue to grow and produce. However, anything more severe than a touch of frost is likely to kill the entire plant. If frost is coming, you can protect each plant by draping it in plastic sheeting or old bed sheets, or you can pull the plant up by its roots and hang in the basement until the fruit ripens. Neither method is guaranteed to work, and in cool areas, an early frost almost always means the end of harvesting tomatoes. To save seeds from open-pollinated varieties, allow perfect fruits to ripen until they become soft. Cut them in half and squeeze the gel and seeds into a jar. Cover with 3 inches of water and shake well. Allow the mixture to sit at room temperature for 24 hours before pouring out the liquid. Discard the floating seeds, and rinse the larger seeds on the bottom in a strainer and then dry them at room temperature for approximately 2 weeks. If handled and stored properly in a cool, dark place, tomato seeds can last up to 6 years. Once you've harvested the tomatoes, store them indoors to continue to ripen. Green tomatoes will ripen faster if wrapped in newsprint, which will contain the ethylene gas and hasten the process. Store them at 55 to 70 degrees F. Fahrenheit, 1321 C, or cooler if you wish to slow the ripening, and warmer to hasten it and check routinely for ripeness. They may last from 3 to 5 weeks stored this way. Thank you for watching this video. See you again on the Secret Paradise channel.
I'm talking about the